Hello friends and family, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zanele Ruth Madlazi. I am a South African teacher currently teaching English in South Korea. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Please stay and consider subscribing to the channel. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for supporting the content that I've made thus far. And we are officially on the road to 3,000 subscribers. So please definitely keep liking, sharing, commenting, and engaging, with me on social media with regards to the content that I put up on the channel. On today's video, I want to help people who are considering moving to Korea or moving to any other Asian country really to teach English. I've been in Korea for the past 9 months almost, and it really has been a roller coaster ride. The one question that I get consistently on social media, people are saying, listen, I'm currently a teacher in South Africa, or I'm unemployed in South Africa, or I just want to, give this a try. Do you think it's worth it? Do you think that it's worth it to leave your friends and family behind, even maybe your romantic partner, leave your job and your assets, whatever, to start this new life abroad as an English teacher? A lot of people are skeptical about making this decision because they don't know the ins and outs, of the process as well as of the outcome. So I'm hoping that with this video today, I can help you weigh up the pros against the cons, look at the advantages and disadvantages, well, according to my perspective, and hopefully that will make you think about whether or not this is a course worth pursuing. And before I get into discussing the advantages and disadvantages of living and teaching in Korea, I just want to say firstly, I understand fully that every country has bad and good things about it. Every country has strengths and weaknesses. And this is why, as a South African, I'm here in Korea, because my country has strengths and weaknesses. Currently, things aren't going well. Actually, in the whole world, the global economy is facing a downturn. Cost of living is becoming high. Food prices are increasing daily. In South Africa, we also have load shedding. We have crime. We just have a lot of issues, which led me to packing my bags and coming to Korea. So I'm not creating this video to bash Korea or to glorify South Africa or the other way around. I'm not creating this video to glorify Korea and say, oh, by all means, leave your country and come here. Things are so much better here. No, I'm just trying to give commentary on what I've observed to be the advantages and disadvantages of living here, in my 9 months of being here. And without further wasting any time, let's get into the cons. Let's look at the disadvantages of the entire process, really, and reality of moving abroad, particularly as a South African, because that's the perspective I am recording this video from. The first thing I think in terms of relocating to Korea is the financial and administrative hurdles. So even before you leave the country, even before you can say, oh, finally, I'm in Korea, there's so much that goes into the planning as well as the application and the visa processes in order for you to get here. Specifically with the EPIC program, the English program in Korea, there's about 11 documents that you must obtain during the application process. And then once you've obtained all of these documents and you've sent the physical copies of these documents to your agency or directly to EPIC, then you are able to get your contract, your temporary contract that you will use to apply for your visa. And for me, that process took about 3 months. It took about 3 months for me to get all the 11 documents and finally send them to my recruiter, Kovia, and be able to receive my contract and then apply for the visa. And on the 4th month of the application process, I was finally sure that I am moving. So it really is a tedious process. I think it is a process that can tax you financially and psychologically and in all the ways, emotionally, because especially if there's delays in things like your visa application and all of that, it's impossible, it's very difficult for you to put an end to the things that you're doing in South Africa. If you are already employed and you're trying to understand when must I put in my notice of resignation for my current employer, and there's delays with your visa and there's delays with the TP test or there's a delay with whatever, it makes it very difficult for you to have like a conclusive time frame in order to say, oh, okay, by March I'll be done with my current job, because things can change anytime. So yeah, I think that's definitely one of the first disadvantages to think about, to say it's not an easy process. Once you understand how it works, you can, maneuver quite successfully, but it's not an easy process. It's a difficult and long process, particularly when it comes to obtaining those documents and making sure that they are authenticated by, government agencies such as DIRCO. We know that government agencies have a reputation for being slow, for just being ineffective. So that really plays into how frustrating the process can be, because once you've done all you can on your part, you have to wait. You have to wait for whoever else has your documents to do what they need to do and return the documents to you, and then you can continue with the process. So it's not for the faint-hearted. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Secondly, it is the financial hurdles that you will go through. If you are especially applying to teach English abroad and you are unemployed, maybe you are applying because there aren't enough opportunities in your field in South Africa, and you feel like, actually, let me dip my feet in the water. Let me try other opportunities and see if the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's okay, it's actually recommendable to say if there's unemployment in your country and you have a degree, put it to good use and apply for jobs in other countries. But the problem with that is if you are already unemployed in your country and you need to find this 20,000, 30,000, even 40,000 rands in order to move to another country, it can be really stressful. Where will you find, such money to pay for your flight tickets, to pay for all these ups and downs, gathering all these documents, sending them to be authenticated, all of that? Where will the money come from? So you find that a lot of people get into debt in order to fund the process of moving abroad, which I don't think is a problem, because once you're here, you really can pay off that debt in the first 2 to 3 months, or even in the first month, depending on how much debt you've incurred. So yeah, it can be financially exhausting, especially because in the first month you will not be compensated for your labor because you haven't worked yet. So until you've worked for a full month, you won't have an income, which means that you will rely on the kindness of your friends and your family and whoever else is in your inner circle to help you adjust. And it is an adjustment. You might get to your apartment and find that there's nothing, there's just a bed and a table and a fridge, and then you have to buy everything else. You need to buy a blanket, you need to buy food, clothes for work, blah blah blah. So financially it can be a hurdle, but I wouldn't say don't consider coming abroad just because it's a financial hurdle. I always believe that where there's a will, there's a way, and good planning leads to good results. So if you think about it properly and sit down and be like, okay, how do I raise this 20,000, 30,000 to relocate? You can think about, for instance, teaching English online before you relocate. Be like, okay, I'm going to teach English online for 4 months, and then I'm going to use that money to pay for this and that. Those things really helped. I've heard a lot of people say, they were unemployed, they started teaching English online, or they started selling stuff, or they started doing this and that. There's a lot that you can try to do and to use in order to raise the capital that you need to fund your relocation. But it also isn't cheap. It isn't it isn't a lot of money, but it isn't cheap. So yeah, those are the first two disadvantages. Even before you can exit your own country, you've already gone through the most. I would say that once you've arrived, now the process has worked, now your application has been successful, the money has come together, everything is together. The other disadvantage becomes the adjustment to the cultural differences and the language barrier. You get here and you realize that, oh, it's not what I thought. I didn't know that it would be this difficult to navigate in a world where English isn't the widely spoken language. When we talk about it in interviews, we're just like, oh, I will learn Korean. But learning a language is not something you can do in a month or two. Unless, I don't know, maybe for some people it is, but for the majority of us, it's something that takes time. And even if you have learned a bit of Korean before you leave your country, you learn it in a very controlled environment, using apps or using online courses. When you get to Korea and you hear people actually speaking Korean to you, it's really not the same. So the cultural differences, the language barrier, just being an outsider, being a foreigner, being the different one, the new person in the space can be very overwhelming. And for most of us, it does lead to some mental health breakdowns, man. Sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't belong. You get that sense of disassociation where you're like, I don't belong here. I feel like, the people who really know me and love me and understand me aren't here. So who am I? You just feel like the sense of disassociating from the rest of the world, and sometimes feeling invisible, and sometimes feeling like you have to try so hard in order to be happy. Just to get 5 minutes of happiness, you have to do a lot. That can be another disadvantage because it's such a new and different culture when compared to yours, you know. But again, I wouldn't say don't come to Korea just because there's cultural differences, you know. Definitely, it will take time for you to acclimate and to adjust and to, you know, sometimes come to terms with certain things. Come to terms with the fact that you will never be Korean. Even if you speak the most fluent Korean, you'll get into certain spaces and people will still be like, this is a foreigner. I don't interact with foreigners like that. So yeah, that cultural difference, just that feeling of not belonging, just that disassociation, language barrier, all of those things as well, once you arrive, can be a challenge, especially when you're trying to teach and be a good teacher. And you realize that the levels of the students, the English levels are really low, and you're just like, oh, if only I had the Korean to say these things to them, if I had the words to help them understand what I'm trying to say to them right now, it would make things so much better for all of us. But yeah, it is what it is. We're here to teach English at the end of the day. Even if you learn Korean, it's not healthy and it's not professional to use it all the time in your English classes because you are here to teach English. So yeah, just a side note. Next disadvantage is for people who are considering moving to Korea or to any Asian country from another job, like leaving a job in South Africa or in your country and saying, oh, okay, I need a break or I need a change of scenery or I'm under so much pressure, you know, currently in my job, so I just need something new, something different, something relaxed. I would say that for me, the disadvantage of coming to Korea has been that it has led to me professionally stagnating. Because I already was working in South Africa and I was a teacher, you know, in my country. And when I came here, I had these imaginations of like being able to form a debating club. I just had a lot of things that I thought I'd be able to try out here in Korea. But I realized that, you know, my job as a teacher of English isn't really teaching English. It's really just to make the kids, you know, comfortable with interacting with a foreigner. And these days I hear a lot of my teachers asking me to play games with the kids. They're just like, listen, dude, we know you're trying to teach them like how to speak English, but they're really not into that. So how about you play some games? And that really makes me always so frustrated. Like I'm trying to understand that this is not my country firstly, and the teachers here know what's best for the kids more than I do. So whatever recommendations that they give me in order to improve my lessons, I have to accept those, take it with a pinch of salt and do what I'm being told to do. But it gets me so frustrated because I'm just like, I'm not an entertainer. I'm not a clown. Like that's the word that I use when I talk to my friends. I'm just like, sometimes I feel like I'm a clown. I'm here like to make these kids like very excited and happy and learn English and play games and, you know, it's all nice. And I just feel like for me, it does nothing for me professionally. When I go back to South Africa, all the kind of teaching that I do here goes out of the window, you know, because back home, learning English as a second language is very intense. Like I guess that's why a lot of South African people and African people in general can speak English the way that they can because we learn it in a very intense way. It's not like no one plays games with us, you know, no one says, oh, let's watch these cartoons and think about the key word. No one says that. We read Shakespeare, you know, that's how intense it is for us. But if here you're like, oh, have the high school kids tried Shakespeare, you will see your co-teacher glitching. They'll be like, what are you talking about? What are you trying to do? You know? So I think that the levels in terms of how we learn English as a second language and the way that we teach it back in our country. And first of all, I'm not even an English teacher. Like back home, I teach economics. And I try to implement that, like, especially in the high school lessons. My co-teacher and I agreed that we'll teach about countries this semester at the high school. Just talk about different countries, the languages, the food, the blah, blah, blah. And whenever I can, I just, you know, talk about the economies of those countries to be like, oh, okay, what does this country sell? What natural resources is this country rich in? You know, those very small things that make me feel like, oh, okay, at least my economics knowledge is coming in some way. But again, it's just like 1 minute in a 50-minute lesson, and the rest of it really has to be easy and simple. So yeah, without me like dragging this point further than I have to, the point is, if you are a teacher in South Africa and you're like, oh, okay, I just wanna, you know, teach abroad and get that experience, it's really not the same. You're gonna get here and like get the shock of your life because it's very different. And particularly if you don't even specialize in teaching English, you might feel very lost. You might feel like this is doing nothing for me professionally, which it isn't really. I think, and I'm not saying this in an ungrateful spirit. I'm really grateful to be here. And that's why I document my life the way that I do on my vlog channel, and I interact with it. I'm very happy and grateful. But the thing is, with life, there's always good and bad in everything. There's just always advantages and disadvantages. And I would be doing an injustice to people asking me questions about living in Korea if I didn't mention that professionally you will stagnate. If you're not a teacher and you are like, oh, okay, my profession is very stressful, maybe I'm an accountant, or I work in finance, or I work in whatever field, and you feel like your career is very stressful and there's a lot of pressure and you're always tired and you just want something that's going to help you simmer down, I think definitely teaching English abroad is the one. You'll get here, and once you get a hold, once you get acclimated to creating lesson plans, to understanding your teaching style, understanding the requirements your co-teacher has for you. Once you open your eyes and your ears to that and you're comfortable in your teaching, bruh, you can walk into work the same day having no idea what you were going to teach and sit down in 2 minutes, come up with a proper lesson idea, and then just sit on your computer for 30 minutes and come up with a good lesson plan. So for people who are like, my profession isn't paying me that much in South Africa, the work that I put in isn't fairly remunerated, I'm always tired, there's these deadlines. If you feel like you need a break, you need a breather, definitely teaching English abroad will give you all the time in the world to come back to yourself, to heal, and it'll also give you the experience of living abroad. I think that this is something that is so mind-opening and it's important. I would recommend it for everyone. I fully, 1,000%, I'd recommend everyone to try living in a different country for a year or a couple of months if they can, and more if they want to. So yeah, that's it. You might professionally stagnate, or if you feel like you need a break, you'll definitely get the break that you deserve. Another question that I get asked in relation to living in Korea, a lot of my friends are members of the LGBTQIA plus community, and they say to me, listen, I'm very keen to come teach in Korea, but is it safe? Is it safe for members of the LGBTQIA plus community? Will I be protected? Will I be looked down upon? Will it be a safe environment for me to disclose my sexuality at work? A lot of people ask me these questions, and from what I've gathered, it's safer to live your life not closeted per se, but unlike in South Africa where we openly can talk about sexuality in many places, at least now, I don't think Korea is that kind of space where you can walk in and be like, oh, I'm gay, or hey, I'm lesbian, or I'm a queer person, and you're proud, of that identity, and it's it's the topic of a lot of conversations and you can talk to people openly. I don't think that's how it works here. I've actually watched another video from another EPIC teacher, former EPIC teacher. I think his name is Alex. You should definitely look at his video. And he spoke about how he decided to not talk about his sexuality at all with his teachers because he was just like, I don't know these people like that. This is a very conservative society, and the last thing I want is for people to start looking at me differently when I interact with the kids or with them just because I've spoken about my sexuality. And I think Alex mentions this instance where he was talking to another teacher, and I don't know who said who was handsome. And the teacher was just like, oh yeah, but not in a gay way. No, I don't mean this in a gay way. I'm so sorry, And you're just like, guys, it's just better to walk into work, do what you gotta do. Don't talk about your personal life like that, I found that for myself, especially also as just an African woman, I really take pride in my identity and things that Black people do and enjoy. And at first I was like, I'm gonna teach them about Black people. I just thought, I'm gonna teach Korean people about African life and African culture, but I've really observed that not all of them are interested anyways, and even if they are, there's just a way in which things are done here, the way that conversations are facilitated. It's so different from back home. So I'm just like, you know what, if they want to learn about African culture, they can just watch my videos, or I don't know, videos of other YouTubers. I'm not going to put myself out there like that because it can put you in a compromising situation if you just want to educate and what. So yeah, I don't know, I've never heard anyone say they've been kicked out of work because of their sexual orientation. I don't think anything that extreme has happened, but you can see people start changing probably their perceptions about you if you mention your sexuality. So I would say it isn't that open yet, and I don't think there's even like laws in the constitution that protect members of the LGBTQIA plus community. So yeah, that's just how it is. Korea is quite conservative, I have to say. I have to put it out there. The whole thing about this is there aren't any clear anti-discrimination laws in the Korean constitution that protect people from being discriminated against because of their sexuality, their religious affiliation, the color of their skin, their nationality, their ethnicity, all of that. There aren't laws which specifically say this is a crime punishable by law agencies. There isn't anything. Literally, you can be discriminated against, and if you're trying to find a recourse or justice for that disadvantage you were put in, it's very difficult to be legally compensated for that. Like, you can't say, oh, I was discriminated against, it was a racial incident, and that is taken seriously and the other person is punished. There aren't clear anti-discrimination laws. So now I want to go through my notes and talk about the advantages of living in Korea. So don't mind me if I keep looking down to refer to them. But I think the first and biggest advantage for me has been an improved earnings potential and improved quality of life. I live in an apartment where I don't pay rent. It's a one-bedroom apartment. I have a nice living area where I use it as my workstation. That's where I sit to do like stuff related to my schoolwork and to do a lot of my content creation and my editing. So I have, fast internet. I don't have load shedding. Really, all those little things accumulate to me having such an improved quality of life. And even where I work, I walk everywhere. I just walk to work, I walk to the shops. If I'm traveling out of the city, I take a bus, which is very affordable, which is very clean. Everything is just in order, and I really love that. It really decreases the amount of anxiety I have about doing things. If I'm sitting down and I'm saying, oh, I'm gonna allocate 2 hours towards editing videos today, I know that it will be 2 hours because there's not gonna be an unexpected power cut, unexpected water cut, unexpected blah 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 that's gonna inconvenience me. So the quality of life is much improved, and my earnings potential has been much improved to the point where right now I know that the next job I apply for, whether in South Africa or elsewhere, I now believe that I deserve to earn this much. I now believe that actually the time and effort that I put towards my work should be fairly remunerated, and I'm not gonna work from that point of I just need a job, now when I apply and when I accept offers. I'm going to be able to interrogate the offer and be like, actually, what do you bring to the table, employer? Are you going to give me this and that benefit? Are you going to give me this and that? I think coming to Korea and earning this much has really helped me understand that I deserve to be rewarded for my work, and that's very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling to know that your work is fairly remunerated. So the second point, or the second advantage for me, has been that I have the teaching abroad experience now, and that's an experience that can never be taken away from me. That's an experience that has helped me to understand the world in such a more open way. I used to understand things from the perspective of being, the girl who was born in Soweto. I grew up in Soweto, really. And then when I was 18, I left to go to live in Pretoria for a year. And then I came back to Joburg and lived there for another 5 years. So I had this very limited view of the world and life. But now I feel like I'm so much wiser because I've interacted with different people. I've survived for 9 months in a different continent, and I've thrived. I've seen myself grow from strength to strength and heal and develop as a teacher. So yeah, the teaching abroad experience is so important, not only to put it in your CV, but just for your personal development as well. And the other part that I put is that it's a safe country. As I said, violent crimes are just like one of the lowest in the world. So it's nice, that you can walk around at night. You don't even have to drive as a foreigner. Like as a person generally, you can take the bus to anywhere. And when I was in South Africa, I used to have a lot of anxiety about driving at night. I was saying this to my other friend that if I go back home, I'm gonna have to be concerned about that, you know, to be like, oh, I have to guard my belongings all the time. I have to think about where's my phone, where am I putting my phone, you know, you have to be on guard, otherwise things can change in 2 seconds and all of your belongings have been taken. But here in Korea, I don't have to worry about that, which is a big plus. It means that in terms of my anxiety just about life and being in new spaces, I don't have to be anxious about people taking advantage of me like that. I know that how I came in is how I will go out. I'll be okay. I'll be fine. I'll be safe. Oh, another advantage is that you have so much time to yourself. You have so much time to yourself. Like, you can do so much. You can do so much. There's an opportunity for self-discovery. There's an opportunity to try new hobbies that you weren't able to afford at home, or you didn't have the time or the space to do them, you know, at home. So currently, as I mentioned earlier, content creation is a big thing for me now, and as well as my postgraduate studies. And yeah, those are the two things that I do outside of work, and traveling, going to see my friends in other cities and just exploring. I hope that I can go to other provinces more in the coming weeks and months and just see a lot more of the country. And hopefully I can go to another Asian country soon. So yeah, time for self-discovery, time for travel, time for trying out new hobbies. It's there. It's definitely there. It's also a character development opportunity. You will be forced into, you know, into spaces that you wouldn't otherwise be in if you didn't leave your country. So yeah, I think as a person, I'm more developed now in terms of like understanding that I'm not always gonna have a voice. There's a time and place to speak. There's a time and place to act. There's a time and place to do everything. You know, as a teacher, I have developed in the sense of being able to deal with different age groups, being able to breach the cultural gap and still develop lessons that my students can be interested in outside of the barrier of me not being Korean or me not being Asian, you know? So yeah, I would say that those are the main advantages. If you have any other questions and you feel like there's something that I didn't touch on, definitely put it in the comment section. And please don't forget to subscribe to my vlog channel, All Things Ruth. That's where I put up like content on how I live, you know, just the visuals. There's less talking there. There's just like a lot of me showing you around and showing you what I do on a daily basis. And the channel is a month old, but we have over 100 subscribers now and over 600 views. So that's really cool. Thank you for supporting that channel. Also, let's engage on social media. I am Ruth_Madlazi on Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.